Cody Ziegler and Paco Medina pit Ben Reilly against Doc Ock as Otto breaks into the Beyond Corp facility, continuing the search for the information that Beyond stole from him when he was the superior Spider-Man. Cody Ziegler returns to the ongoing with more Doc Ock-centric storylines as the villain continues his vendetta against Beyond and outing them as a not-so-good company. Because of this, we are treated to an issue that is mostly Spider-Man battling Doc Ock, and despite the Spider-Man not being Peter, I really do love the classic pairing making a return into the comic books, since it really does feel like an age since we had just Spider-Man outright fighting Doc Ock. I still don't really like that the writers of the series as well as Devil's Reign aren't seemingly communicating with one another about what the hell is going on with Doc Ock, since at one point he knows he was once Spider-Man and is trying to regain everything he knew since it was taken from him, but here he doesn't really know and isn't really familiar with what happened to him or anything. It's very strange what's going on, and it's kind of left hanging over the book as sort of like a dampener on it all. Apart from all of the Spider-Man Doc Ock stuff, we also get Maxine making her presence known, with her and Ben sort of duking it out a little bit verbally, with Ben pushing back against Beyond and specifically what Maxine wants and how she sees Ben as an asset and not a person. His relationship with Marcus also seems to be growing as well, as the man went from kind of a stiff all-business handler in those first couple of issues to someone who's a bit more friendlier and understanding of Ben's plight. So that's really cool to see, and something I'm looking forward to developing a little bit more throughout this series. Paco Medina also makes a return to the art side of the book and gives us some fantastic looking clean pages, utilizing the Spider-Man and Doc Ock battles really well and giving them all a really great flow, and makes it feel like it's Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock, but also a Spider-Man who hasn't really fought Doc Ock before, so there's a bit of sort of new stuff in there and kind of feels new and never seen before. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 84 was a fun continuance of the Beyond storyline, bringing Doc Ock properly into the story and leading to some classic Spidey vs Doc Ock goodness. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 84 finds Doug telling his work friend about the insane adventure he went on when he was kidnapped by Kraven and saved Spider-Man, slipping the hero some of those headache pills they took from R&D, and because of it he was sent there by the top brass. His new work friend doesn't believe him as Doug continues to talk about Spider-Man being his friend, and both he and the heroes shared a traumatic experience. Soon Otto Octavius arrives in the office, unleashing his arms as he captures all of the office workers, reassuring them that they aren't his target, their bosses are. Peter meanwhile remembers the nightmare of the void-faced Uncle Ben, a voice telling him about looking into the mirror and the guy looking back, since there is no hiding from him. Pete stands his ground, opening his eyes as his uncle's face returns, and he says he can't let him down. A voice asks how that makes him feel, and Peter says it feels overwhelming. It's not Peter who's remembering this, but Ben Reilly, who tearfully tells Dr. Kafka that he knows Uncle Ben believes in him and he wants to prove him right. Ben removes the memory halo that the doctor put on his head, lifting the doctor high into the air in elation since she has been able to give him something amazing. Kafka demands to be put down since it's not appropriate, as later that night, Ben and Janine get all dressed up and head out on a date. Janine asks him about his session with Dr. Kafka, learning from Ben that it's nice to just have space to lay it all out with no judgment. He asks how she feels about all of this, but Janine knows they're a little overdressed for this, but then decided they both clean up rather well. As the self-driving car takes them into the city, Ben says he was actually talking about Beyond, thinking that it's still a little weird. Janine knows that some people would think that it's too good to be true, but she doesn't think that since the whole operation still needs a lot of work. Ben agrees since Beyond is far from perfect, voicing his displeasure at Maxine and the Miles Morales situation, but despite that, they have been doing some good. Janine says she has some other good to add to the list, going to kiss Ben, but then his phone buzzes, so she jokes about offering him a swift death if he answers it. He tells Marcus his timing is terrible, as the man tells him that he is needed in the field ASAP as a major player has been making life hell for Beyond and they just reappeared. Ben wants to know how major, so Marcus tells him that it's Doc Ock and he's currently holed up in a Beyond data center in Midtown, so Spider-Man needs to go and protect their assets. Ben thinks that they are prioritizing corporate secrets over personnel again, but Marcus says this comes directly from Maxine, apologizing since his hands are tied in this. Ben knows it's okay, telling him he's on the way, as Janine knows it's okay and they can get dinner another time. Ben tries to apologize, however Janine shuts him up, telling him to go be a superhero, and this is his one get out of jail free card. Ben kisses her, saying that he'll head over, save some people, punch an old man, and be back in time to meet her at the apartment for leftovers. Spider-Man takes to the rooftops as Doc Ock meanwhile demands Beyond return what they stole from him so he can have his revenge. Doug tries to tell Otto that he isn't really even one of these guys, but Otto silences him, knowing that Beyond thought that they could elude him and place their secrets in a place free from outside communication, but there is no place his arms cannot reach. Ock gains access to their inner vault, disengaging the security system so he can take his tech back. Spider-Man arrives, kicking the villain in the face as Ben recognizes Doug from Kraven's oil rig, missing his banter. Spider-Man says that he'll just take care of the villain, hoping they have a safe room that Doug can take his friends to. Doug takes his friend from the vault as Ben begins to banter with Doc Ock, telling him that this is an after-hours call-out, and he charges double. Ock knows that this Spider-Man is nothing to him, both knowing who their superior Spider-Man is, and he is there for different reasons. He tells the hero something was taken from him, something that he wasn't aware of until he stumbled upon one of Beyond's hidden companies, and there is no telling how deep the well of lies goes. He smashes Spider-Man in the face as Spider-Man tells him that he already dealt with the whole corporation's a bad thing from Kraven, knowing the villains really should talk with each other more. Ock demands the hero face him when suddenly his arms go limp, as Spider-Man knows that'll happen to everyone eventually, as he reveals that he put an anti-Ock device on Ock's back, disabling his ability to communicate with the arms. Otto thinks that was clever, knowing such feats when backed by a company like Beyond become rather pedestrian, knowing that he has seen enough of Beyond's tech to appreciate their handiwork. Otto disengages his arms, going and grabbing the device he came for as he reveals that he knows more about the facility than Spider-Man. He activates a switch on the console in front of him, activating the room's weapon systems which attack Spider-Man. The hero admits that was smooth of the villain as he rips out one of the turrets on the wall, intending to use it on Ock, but the sonic weapons blow him down as the lasers blast him. Otto thinks that Spider-Man is rather mediocre, disengaging the weapons as the hero lays defeated. He tells him that this was just a prelude for what's to come, hoping that for Spider-Man's sake, his bosses hire someone better equipped for this when he returns. Sometime later, Ben awakens in Beyond's med lab where he asks Marcus what happened. Marcus doesn't know the specifics or what the black box Ock took contained, only that it was extremely sensitive information. Ben knows that he screwed up and let everyone down, but Marcus says that he went into battle with very little intel and still put up a hell of a fight, despite ending up in the infirmary. Maxine appears via hologram, knowing that Ben did screw up in a colossal way that now requires her personal attention. She tells Ben that he was chosen for this because he was better than the other choices, but she is very disappointed to find that he is unable to best a foe that the legacy Spider-Man made a routine out of beating. She tells him that she needs Otto found fast. Unhappy, both Ben and Marcus don't seem to be working right now. Ben says that he wants to know what's going on, reminding her that he is not an asset, but she thinks differently, knowing that he's quickly becoming a liability, and she refuses to suffer liabilities. Ben wants to know what was on the drive that Otto stole, but all she will tell him is that it's info that any other competitor of theirs would use to make their life a living hell. Ben hopes that Marcus has some ideas of where to start looking, as across town at the Beyond HQ, the receptionist check in some staff as a man approaches him, asking to see Maxine Danger. The receptionist says that Maxine has no meeting scheduled, but the man, revealed to be Doc Ock, says that's no problem since this visit is something of a surprise.